What's up? It's me, D.W.C, and welcome to another video in MLB The Show 20. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a career simulation, which I've seen done by other people in both MLB The Show and in different games that I like NHL. The Ortiz is the main guy I've seen do it in MLB The Show, so shout out to him. I just thought it'd be something fun to do myself. And we're going to be starting it off with one of my favorite young players, and we're going to simulate through his career and see how his career goes. So he is on the Toronto Blue Jays, so we're going to take over them. We'll set up everything like we normally do. I'm going to set it to all auto-manage because I don't want any control over the roster. We're just going to be following this one player's career wherever he goes to see how it goes. And what I think I may do... First, I'll introduce you to who we're going to be doing. It is not Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It is actually Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette is one of my favorite young players coming up into the league. You look what he did last year in just 46 games. He did phenomenal. 11 home runs, 18 doubles, 311 average. So he is going to be the player that we take over and we watch his career progression. What I think I may do, just to make sure we get his particular stats as accurate as they will be to real life, is I'm gonna put an injury on him to kind of replicate the situation that we're in now in real life where the season has not started, and then when he comes back into the lineup, then we will carry on following him from there. Okay, so here we are putting our injury on Bo Bichette. It is going to be a 70-day injury to kind of simulate as close to what's going on now as we can, because it's supposed to be at least late May until the MLB season starts. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to throw a 70-game injury on him, 70-day injury. And also, what I did do is I moved Lourdes Gurriel Jr. to left field, and that opens up the position for Bo Bichette to be the starting shortstop. Actually, I'll do that after Bichette comes back, but I think that is a good move. I think Gurriel Jr. fits in well as an outfielder. You look at his arm strength and his arm accuracy. Fits very well for an outfielder. And then they got Grichuk and Hernandez, so they can just figure all that out, really. And that's up to them to set the lineup how they want. I'd probably put Grichuk playing center field, but leave him as a default right fielder, because you look at his fielding stats, they're the best out of the group. Or put Gurriel in center, whatever they want to do. But we're going to do that so it opens up the hole for Bichette to play more. That's the only thing I'm going to do with this roster. I'm going to make sure that Bichette actually gets into the lineup by moving Gurriel Jr. out of the way, but he's still also going to be in the lineup. In fact, his overall goes way up. And we're going to come back when Bichette comes into the lineup, see how the team's doing at that point, and then very quickly jump to the end of the season. So we are up to May 25th. The Blue Jays are actually playing pretty well. They are 30-24, and we just removed Bichette's injury, so he is back into the team. Gurriel Jr. is doing pretty well. Bichette is back and healthy, ready to go. Currently a 75 overall. He's not very happy because he's on the bench, but like I said, we are going to move Gurriel Jr. to left field because, in my personal opinion, I think this is what's best for the team. And that puts him in left field. He's one of our better players. He's our best hitter now. And then that clears the way for Bichette, who is the young shortstop of the future, in my opinion, to fill that hole. Could also be a second baseman, but right now he's a shortstop. That's what we're going to keep it as. That's the only thing we're doing to this roster. We're going to simulate ahead now and see how his season goes. End of the season is here, and the Blue Jays finished 84-78, so not bad, but they did not make the playoffs in Bichette's first year of this simulation. We will stop and take a look at what happened with Bichette. I will tell you very quickly that Gurriel Jr. actually got traded for a potential pitching prospect, Ethan Hankins, so he's out of the way now. We don't even really need to worry about him affecting Bichette. But you look at Bichette's season, he actually played really, really well again. 100 games, 417 at-bats, 135 hits, 26 doubles, 15 home runs, 324 average, 374 OBP, and an 897 practically a 900 OPS. So a very solid season right there. We'll just go in quickly and check and see if we had any award winners. And just a Gold Glove, nothing important there. So I'm going to get back into the simulation, and we'll see you at the end of next season, if not the end of Season 3. So we are at the end of the regular season in Season number 3. The Blue Jays have had 2 bad years as a team and did not make the playoffs either year. Taking a look at our man, Bo Bichette. Last year, in year number 2 of our simulation, he had a bit of a bad year. He played all 162 games. He had 39 doubles and 23 home runs. The average was down at 253 and the OPS was down at 747. But this year he had 36 doubles, 25 home runs, a 283 average, 350 OBP, and an 841 OPS. So he had a solid bounce back year this year. And his potential has gone up. You can see he's now up to an 84 overall at 24 years old. His career hits, he's at 525. 74 home runs. He's got that 285 career average. So it's looking pretty good for him so far. Taking a look at the team, not much has changed really. Bo Bichette has jumped up big time. And you see what he's doing. Obviously, Vladdy is there. He's getting better. So this team's young. It's getting better together. Corey Knebel is like the one player they brought in as their closer. He wasn't even closing their games, which is weird, but whatever. Big contract for a guy to be your best bullpen arm and not be closing games for you. But other than that, the team's not looking great, so we still just need to wait for them to get better as a team. And I'm going to get back into simulating. We'll take a look at the awards. Gold Glove for Biggio, nothing for Bichette yet. I'll get back into simulating. If nothing important happens, I'll see you at the end of year number 5. Okay, so the end of year number 5 regular season, the Blue Jays finished at 98-64 and won the division. This is the first season of the simulation so far that the Blue Jays have made the playoffs, and they'll be taking on the Angels in the division series. We will stop simulating, and we are going to check out the stats. We'll check awards, see if anyone won anything. Kevin Biggio won a Silver Slugger and the Hank Aaron Award. He had a very good year. Taking a look at how our man Bo Bichette did, looks like he had a fantastic year as well. He had 47 doubles, 37 home runs, 110 RBI. He walked 60 times. Stole 16 bases, 315 average, 370 OBP, 945 OPS. So a fantastic year this season for Bo Bichette heading into his first playoff action. In year number 4, he hit 29 home runs, 37 doubles. He had 99 RBI, 287 average, 345 OBP, and an 870 OPS. So these last few seasons have been very good for him after one that was a little bit down in year number 2 of the simulation. So we are going to simulate into the postseason, see how far this Blue Jays team goes, and see if Bichette can manage to get himself a World Series victory in his first postseason action. We'll simulate slowly through the series here. We'll simulate through this Angels one. We beat them in 4 games, and we are now taking on the Rays. We'll simulate 4 games into that series right now. We are up 3-1. Simulating through, and we beat the Rays, and we're taking on the Braves in the World Series here in year number 5. We'll show you the rest of our team. I think I forgot to do that. You got Biggio, who is crazy jumped up. He's up to a 95 overall, which is insane. Had a fantastic year. You look at that right there. Over 1,100 OPS, which is ridiculous. 367 average. That's nuts. Then you obviously have Vladdy. You got Manoah jumped up. Bichette. You got Knebel. They managed to pick up Ryan McMahon for first base, as I don't think Rowdy Tellez was doing the job that they wanted. He had a decent year this year, though. And you got the catchers are still the same. For some reason, Danny Jansen's in AAA. I don't know why they would do that. Doesn't make any sense to me. Third base, you still got Vladdy, Teoscar in left, Hunter Bishop and Mike Gerber in center, and then Clint Frazier in right. So that's how the team is looking right now. Pearson, Barucki, Thornton, and I guess Oka round out the rotation. But we are into the World Series here in year number 5. It told me we're going against the Braves, but yet it says TBD on the schedule. Okay, so we're actually going against the Brewers. Maybe I just misread that and it was the Brewers facing the Braves to see who we play. We'll simulate 2 games in, 1-1. Simulate the next 2 games, 2-2 in the series, 3-2 for us. And the Blue Jays have won the World Series in year number 5. Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Kevin Biggio pick up their first World Series title. I wonder if we can see what Bo Bichette did in the playoffs right here. You see he hit .323 in the playoffs, 8 RBI, 4 home runs. So it looks like he was very productive in the playoffs. As was Vladdy, as was Biggio. Biggio is a monster in this franchise right now. Teoscar was good, but we're not worried about anyone else. We're focusing on Bo Bichette in this, and it looks like he performed well. Year number 5, Bo Bichette gets World Series championship number 1. So we're going to advance to the offseason, and then we're going to simulate ahead and simulate through year number 6, 7, and I'll pick up when something interesting happens. If they get back into the playoffs next year, which they should with this roster, we'll simulate through that, and I'll show you if he gets any awards. Other than that, we are going to be moving on. Miguel Cabrera makes the Hall of Fame. Other than that, we're just going to be continuing with the simulation, so I will catch up with you when we have some more news. End of year number 6, and the Blue Jays once again find themselves in the playoffs, winning the division yet again, as expected with this team pretty much because of how young and talented they are with Bichette, Guerrero, Biggio. They're all in the primes of their career at this point, so you can expect them to get to the playoffs pretty much every year if this team stays together. Looking at Bichette, his contact numbers are insane. His power is very good. What kind of year did he have? He hit 200 hits for the second season in a row, 41 doubles, 41 home runs, 123 RBI, 315 average, 1,000 OPS. Great year for Bichette. He is now up to a 95 overall at 27 years old. Like I said, the Blue Jays are in the postseason again. I accidentally simmed the first game. They lost to Cleveland. The second game they win. The third game they win. And they beat the Indians, and they are now taking on the Angels. They lose game 1 to the Angels. They lose game 2 to the Angels. They lose game 3 to the Angels. They win the 4th, and they lose game 5. So unfortunately, they get knocked out of the playoffs here to the Angels in year number 6. They won the World Series last year. They got to the championship series this year, but could not get past the Los Angeles Angels. Let's take a look at awards. Bichette won a Gold Glove. I believe that is his first award of his career. So that's worth taking note of, as it is his first award. And we're just going to move on. We will sim to the offseason because we are now eliminated. And the Cubs beat the Angels in the World Series. Advancing to the offseason here. Let's see what happens. No big-time retirements for our team. No inductees. So we're just going to simulate through the offseason, sim next season, and I'll catch up with you when there is more news. Okay, so just after where I left off, we went through free agency, and unfortunately the Blue Jays could not manage to keep together the team that they had with all the money they had to put towards those players, and Bo Bichette actually left Toronto, and he is now in Cincinnati as a member of the Cincinnati Reds. You look at his contract, he got a big contract for himself, signed up until 2032, 28 years old, now a member of the Cincinnati Reds. We'll take a quick look at their team and see how they're lining up. They got Hunter Green, Cole Stewart, Taijuan Walker. So their rotation's not bad. Their bullpen, they got Munoz, Sims, Crick, and Leclerc. So their bullpen's not the worst either. They have a good catcher in Francisco Mejia. First base is rough for them, as obviously Joey Votto has gone at this point. Second base is decent. Third base is decent. Bichette obviously being the star on this team, I would assume at shortstop now. They have no left fielder. They have a good player in center field. He looks very solid as a fielder and speed, decent hitting, 88 overall. And then right field is a bit rough. So he definitely went to a worse team here in Cincinnati. We're going to simulate if they don't make the playoffs. I will only update you if he has any major awards. And we'll just keep on going. We will now have to be following the Cincinnati Reds. So I will catch up with you when we have some big news that is worth stopping the simulation for. End of year number 7, and the Toronto Blue Jays have fallen way off from going World Series year number 5, Championship Series year number 6, to now below 500, as I guess they lost a large part of their team. We'll take a look at their roster. Even though we're not following Toronto anymore, they still have Vladdy and Biggio. They brought in Kyle Tucker, I guess, instead of Bichette. They got Bishop, who's grown, so they still look like they have a good team, but they just couldn't pull it together. But our focus is now on the Reds, who are over here. We'll take a look at Bichette, see what he did this year as his first year in Cincinnati. His potential went down his first year in Cincinnati. He played all 162 games for the 3rd season in a row. 170 hits this year, so that's down a bit from his 200 the previous 2 years. 25 home runs, which is also down. He still hit for a good average at 290, though. So he still hit for an 872 OPS, which is still solid. He still had a good year. Still one of his better years, probably around average, maybe just below average at this point after these previous 2 seasons that he had. But I don't know if the Reds made the postseason. We'll go take a look. National League Central, the Reds actually finished worse than the Blue Jays. They finished 66 and 96, so they were way out of contention. We'll take a look at awards to see if Bichette won anything. We have to switch over to the National League, though. I don't suspect that he won anything, because he didn't seem to put up great numbers this year. Maybe a Gold Glove. Not even a Gold Glove. Okay, so it doesn't look like Bichette won anything this year. We'll continue simulating, and I'll be back when we have some big, worthy news. We are currently in the offseason, and I just got a pop-up that Christian Yelich signed with the White Sox, so I went to look at what kind of money he was making at 36 years old, and just look at this outfield that they've put together. They have Luis Robert, who is 99 overall, 97 without Morale. They have Christian Yelich, who's 96 overall, 93 without Morale. They have Yordan Alvarez, who is 93 overall. That is an insane outfield right there. And other than that, they have Jarrell Cotton, who somehow got up to an 89 overall. They have Yohan Makata still. They have Bobby Witt Jr., Dylan Cease. This team is insane. I just thought I had to pause and show that off. We're getting back to simulation now. Okay, so here we are, end of year number 10 so far in our simulation, 11th season of Bo Bichette's career. Hopping over to the National League Central, the Reds again had a terrible, terrible year. 96 losses. They're the 4th ranked team in baseball. So for them to be losing that many games and struggling that badly is pretty shocking. It definitely has to do with their lineup configuration, in my opinion. We'll jump over to the Reds team and I'll show you how Bo Bichette did, and then we'll look at how their lineup is set and see if we can see any flaws. Not that I can change them. Bo Bichette, again, had himself a great year. You look at the last 3 years, 168 hits, 186, and then this year he played less games, so he only had 126. But 42 doubles last year, 28 this year, 35 home runs last year, 22 this year, 100 RBI last year, 312 average last year with 307 average this year, 387 and 385 OBP, and then a 970 OPS last season, and a 937 OPS this season. So Bo Bichette continues to do great things. He is now up to almost 1,800 hits on his career at 31 years old. I'm not sure if he's going to get to 3,000, but we'll see. He's almost at 300 home runs, so he can definitely get to 400 home runs. And his average is up close to 300, so he'll probably finish with an average around 290 unless he really drops off here in the last few seasons. But let's look at how their lineup is, because there's something going wrong with this team. We're just going to quickly check it out and then get back into the simulation. So they got a pretty decent team. For some reason, they have Their third base spot is really troubling, and they have a couple third basemen, so if I was them, I'd probably trade one of them away for a better first baseman, because Jake Bauers is just not getting it done. He had a pretty good year last year, but other than that, he's just not cutting it. So I'd probably replace him and maybe get a better outfielder for this guy or this guy. This guy seems, actually, neither of them are really that great, so I'd probably replace these three players right here if possible. We'll look at their pitching rotation as well, as I think their pitching rotation is actually pretty decent. They got Cole Stewart, this guy, Hunter Green, Sandy Gaston, and Patrick Merritt. So their pitching rotation overall wise, at least, is looking pretty healthy. Their bullpen with this closer is looking really solid. I don't know why this guy's in their bullpen. That doesn't make any sense at all. I guess he's 73 overall, but still. They could be doing better there. And really, if we look at the roster very quickly here, they could very easily make a trade. Because you see they have Austin Riley, Rhys Hines, Jonathan India, and then this guy who has a potential. They could easily get rid of Austin Riley because he's the best overall, and even he hasn't been doing that great when he's in there. So they could trade him or hold on to him and trade one of these guys along with one of these outfielders in the corner outfield and just upgrade their team big time. But that's what I'd do. It doesn't really matter what I'd do. We're going to get back into simulation. I'll see you at the end of year 13, I guess, if nothing happens up until that point. So we are at the end of year number 12 in our simulation. Again, nothing big has happened up until this point. Bo Bichette's really kind of been disappointing. Hasn't really won any awards except for that one gold glove. He did win the World Series in year 5 of our simulation. So he has that at least, and he's had a really solid career. But he hasn't won any flashy awards. The only reason I stopped at this point is to show off that Mike Trout has retired. He sat in free agency this year. He did not play the year before. We'll take a look at his career totals. He finished his career with 2,800 hits. I'll go back and show you. One season, he only had 18 hits. He only played 18 games. And then this season here, he only played 67 games. So he easily would have had 3,000 hits, in my opinion. He got up to 650 home runs, which is fantastic. He finished with a 311 career average, over 400 OBP. His OPS was over 1,000 for his career, and he finished with a career WAR of 160. So, fantastic career. Obviously, probably the greatest of all time, and he is going down. Will definitely be inducted into the Hall of Fame, as you can see there, alongside Francisco Lindor, one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player the game has ever seen. Mike Trout has retired. I will quickly show you Bo Bichette's stats up until this point again, I guess. A quick little update. The team, again, is still ranked highly in MLB, but they're still struggling. Last 2 years, 157 hits, 171 hits, 31 and 24 home runs. 270 average last year was a bit down. This year he's back up to 320. He actually just missed the batting title by 4 batting points. 400 OPP this year. 942 OPS is up from 838 the last year. So again, he had a very solid year at 34 years old, but he is going to start to regress pretty quickly at this point, I believe. 95 overall still, but he is going to start to fall off. So hopefully this team manages to pull it together before he's out of here, and maybe he can win himself one more championship. But we'll have to see, as we're going to get back into the simulation. Again, I'll stop if something big happens. If not, we'll probably see you at the end of the career. Okay, so I think this might be year 13 or 14. I'm not sure. But Bo Bichette entered free agency. He has found himself a new team in the Chicago Cubs. He signed a $27 million deal for 1 year with the Cubs at 35 years old. We're obviously going to stop simulating. Go check out Bo Bichette and that Cubs team. So going over to the Cubs, we see Bo Bichette is not even in their top 3 of players, and he's 93 overall, so that is a good sign already for his team and his hopes of getting another championship. We are at year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So this is the year 13 offseason, going into year 14. Bo Bichette finds himself on the Cubs. He's got a great starting pitcher, 96 overall, 91 overall without Morale. He's got a great right fielder to partner with in the lineup, who looks like he plays really well. 24, 30, 39 home runs. He's got a good closing pitcher, and then he's got himself. He's got a good center fielder. He's got a first baseman. This team looks like it could be very good. Hopefully, Bo Bichette finds himself back in the playoffs. I'm going to simulate the season, and we'll see where they end up. Alright, so we are approaching the end of the year with Bo Bichette's first year as the Cubs. Looks like they were a very good team. They won 97 games, and they almost definitely made the playoffs. There's no way they missed the playoffs with 97 wins. We will stop the simulation. They are taking on the Mets in the postseason. We're going to go over and look at how Bo Bichette did his first year with the Cubs. He is still holding his overall fairly decently. He's still 90 overall at 35 years old. You can probably bank on him playing another 2 years, I would say. This year he had 189 hits, 22 home runs, so that power is cooling down a little bit. But he did get to the 400 career home run mark. 308 average this year, 391 OBP, 897 OPS. Another solid year from Bo Bichette. His first year with the Cubs. His first year back in the playoffs, I don't think he made it the entire time in Cincinnati, so that's 7 years. He never made it in those 7 years with Cincinnati. He got paid a lot of money in those 7 years, but never made the playoffs. He is back in the playoffs this year. Let's see how far they can go. So we're going back over to the calendar. We'll go back to the Chicago Cubs, and we will simulate these games. See how they do. First 2 games, they lose one and they win one. Next 2 games, they lose both and they are eliminated from the playoffs. Bo Bichette makes it back to the playoffs. Unfortunately, cannot get past the New York Mets. So I will see you next year if they make the playoffs again, which I kind of expect them to, if not at the end of his career or when we get some more big news regarding the team or Bo Bichette's career individually. Okay, so after a year of not playing well, the Cubs are back in the playoffs this season. They had 104 wins in what will most likely be Bo Bichette's final year on an MLB roster. I'm not saying he's going to retire after this year. He might sit in free agency for a couple years, but it is most likely his final year on an MLB roster. We'll go over and look at him. He is down to 77 overall. He had 151 hits this year, as he is now up to 2,769 on his career. 16 home runs brings him up to 435 on the career. A 292 average this year. Career average sitting at 294. Very nice. Very nice career OBP at 368, 378 this year. And an 830 OPS this season. 888 OPS for his career. Being 37 years old and 77 overall, I really don't see him making the cut for a team next year, so this is probably his final postseason push. Let's see if the Cubs can win a championship with Bo Bichette in most likely his final year in the MLB. So we're going to simulate ahead. We are taking on the Cardinals. Lose game 1, win game 2, win game 3, and win game 4. So we're moving on to take on the Phillies here. They lose the first game. They win the second game. They lose the third game and the fourth game. They win the fifth game. So it is 3-2 Philly. Game 7 right here, and they lose Game 7. So unfortunately, they cannot make it to the World Series. They fall just that short. Game 7 against the Phillies. They lost 4-1, and they could not get to the World Series in what I'm assuming is Bo Bichette's final year. The Red Sox beat the Phillies in the World Series, and we're going to advance to the offseason, see if he retires. I'm not sure that he will. We'll scroll down to the Cubs, and he did not retire, but I'm not expecting him to be on a roster, so we can consider this his final career stat line, as Manny Machado and Austin Meadows and Nomar Mazara get into the Hall of Fame. We're going to go over and look at his career stat line again once more quickly, because I don't think he's going to get any more at-bats in the MLB. So here they are. This is what Bo Bichette finishes with. 2,769 hits, 590 doubles, 435 career home runs, 294 career average, and an 888 career OPS. At 77 overall, 38 years old, I'm not expecting him to get many more at-bats, if any at all. So I will be back with, I guess, the official career retirement announcement, and we will see if he makes the Hall of Fame. Alright, so we're actually at the end of the following season, as Bo Bichette did actually re-sign with the Cubs. I wasn't expecting him to, but he did sign another contract. I believe it was $5.3 million to run it back with the Cubs. They didn't make the playoffs. He is now down to 73 overall. There's no way he's getting another contract after this. He had 130 hits still in the year, so he is now up to 2,900 hits, pretty much, one off of it. He had 29 doubles, so he's at 619 doubles, 446 home runs for his career. His average was not good this year. It brings his career average down to 291, and his career OPS goes down to 876. Still a very, very solid career. Most likely Hall of Fame with that 440 home runs and the almost 3,000 hits. But I'm going to simulate up ahead until we get his career retirement, and we will see if he does indeed make the Hall of Fame. I continue to be surprised by this game, as Bo Bichette was brought back for another season. I believe he was a 73 overall shortstop at the start of the year, but the Cubs brought him back. He was either 73 or 72. The Cubs brought him back. He got 68 hits, so he moved to 2,967 hits on his career, so close to that 3,000. He got 4 more home runs to bring him up to 450 home runs. His average was low, so it brings his career average down to 290, and his OPS was obviously low, brings his career OPS down to 869. But yeah, they brought him back for another season, and he got a decent amount of action off the bench, I guess. 292 at-bats. He got himself up to nearly 3,000 hits on the career. But again, I will be back when he officially retires. There's no way that they bring him back again, right? I guess we'll see. Okay, so I know I said I wasn't going to control any of the roster stuff, but I looked at the roster and seen that the Blue Jays had a terrible second baseman. So I went in and I moved Bo Bichette from shortstop to second base. He jumped up to 70 overall, and he played one more season in the MLB. Played 53 games, 184 at-bats. Got 37 hits to bring him up over that 3,000 hit mark. I just couldn't see him not make 3,000 hits. I had to give him the opportunity. He got to 3,004 hits, 451 career home runs, 288 career average, 863 career OPS. Let's see if that's Hall of Fame worthy. I think it is. 450 home runs, 3,000 hits. Come on, that's definitely Hall of Fame worthy. He didn't retire as we're through the offseason, but there is absolutely no way, as we move him back to shortstop, that he's ever going to play another game in the MLB at this point. So I will show you the retirement screen for when he does indeed retire. We are back, and here it is. Bo Bichette has officially retired. You've seen his career stat line: 3,004 hits, 641 doubles, 451 home runs, 288 career average, 863 career OPS. Let's see if that is good enough for the Hall of Fame. And it is. Bo Bichette gets inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2039 with 3,000 hits, 450 home runs, and he made it. It was a long career. He played up until the point where he was 41 years old, I believe, and he only got one World Series in year 5 with the Blue Jays, but he had a very, very successful career individually. He did get that one World Series ring, and that is going to do it for our Bo Bichette career simulation. Hall of Famer Bo Bichette. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you again soon with some more MLB The Show content.